And welcome back to my channel. Now if you saw my last video, I think it was my last video, I started colouring this page. Now I finished it off, I've done all the details. This is a Mariola Budek PDF, a flower PDF, so I've finished that, but I want to paint the background. I don't want to leave it as it is. And while it's multicoloured flowers, I'm going in with the Paul Rubens. Now these are really vibrant, bold watercolours. If I can open them. And there they are. So while I'm getting my piece of paper prepped with masking tape, I'm just going to, I use my bigger pipette and activate the paints. I'm not too sure which colours I'm using, just so I'm going to activate all the bright ones. That's the idea. And that should be enough. Now I'm using a low-tack tape, and I might use a washi tape as well, just to hold the paper down. And what I might do is, if the border comes out perfect, I might leave it. If not, then I'll just cut it. I'll cut it so it's not got any border. Well, the reason that I'm putting this down is because once I add the water, it'll start wanting to flip up and move the paper, and I just want it to be in one position. Yeah, I'm going to have to probably cut this paper because I'm going to have to come a little bit further in than I wanted to. Just to make sure that the sheet of paper is held down. Now keep in mind this isn't watercolour paper. This is the Nina cardstock. It's the one with more texture. The one that I used. I only started this page yesterday. I managed to finish it off last night, so it was a relatively quick page. But I thought it needed a background. Now I've got sort of an idea what I want to do in the background, but not, if that makes any sense. So I want to do like a sort of splatter effect almost, but like more in the centre. I want to leave some of these areas still white. So I would like to leave a border, but I think that'll look a bit naff with that bit just poking out. So just try and get it as equal as I can. Yeah, that's already wanting to start popping up. Now this isn't the strongest of masking tape, with it being a low tack one, and I cannot for the life of me find my other tape. So that's why I'm using washi tape as well. I've got a funny feeling this isn't going to help. And I will let this dry naturally. I'll not use the heat gun or anything. Just let this dry. It's quite humid today, muggy. So it shouldn't take too long to dry. I'm hoping not. Should be enough. I think I was getting to the end of the roll end as well, so that were lucky. So it doesn't need to be perfect. Just try and get it as stuck down as possible. If you're using stronger masking tape, I would recommend putting the masking tape on a piece of clothing or a cloth or something, just to take some of that stickiness off. Now I've pulled out the Princeton Neptune size 12 and size 4 brushes. And I've got my paints here, so actually I'm going to try to more or less got everything in frame. We'll see how that works out. Try and even get the water. And dip my finger in the paint while I'm at it. Have I got an in-between brush? I don't think I have. Let me just double check before I start. That's a harder brush. I have got this one, which is the Billy Showell size 6. So we'll start off with that. Just make sure the brush is thoroughly wet. And I want to go straight into the pan and then onto the paper. I'm not mixing any colours because there's that many beautiful colours here to pick from. I don't feel a need to actually do that. So in some areas I'll wet it first, and then others I'm just going to go straight in with the colour. So I like the look of this pink. Let me just test it. That is quite a vibrant pink. Just pop the colour down where I initially want it, and then I'm going to pop some water over the top. I would have liked it to have been a little bit thinner at the very tip of this brush, but it's not. So I'm just going to work with what I've got. So I don't want to use a really tiny brush because it'll take ages to get the colour down. I don't want this drying before I've had a chance to add water. Pull that colour down just a little bit more. Let's clean my brush off now. And then start adding some clean water and just let it do what it wants to do. Just realised I forgot to put my phone on silent. So I'll just leave that there, let it do its thing. I might actually give you a little bit of a different angle as well so you can see a little bit better. So you can see that's bleeding out now and just doing its own thing. But I'm going to add a little bit more water. I probably should have done this sooner, but I was messing around with the camera and trying to get the angle right for you. So while I've got the camera closest to this point, see the masking tape's already starting to pop up there. I'll do this centre bit. Now what colour do I fancy? What about yellow, like a really vibrant yellow. And I'm going to change my brush because I was just complaining about that brush. So I'll change to the Princeton Neptune size 4. Just load the brush up again. Just a little test. It's more on the orangey side, so let's mix in a tiny little bit of yellow actually. Right. Alright, I want to work really from left to right because I'm right-handed. Let's pop that initial colour down. You can see how pigmented it is. It almost reminds me of gouache, this paint. There's maybe some down here. Before it starts drying, to add some orange. See how thick that is? Clean my brush off, and then it's more or less a fully loaded brush, this, with clean water, and just go around the edges, just let it do its own thing. Same thing with this area. Need a little bit more. See, because I've chosen to use a smaller brush, it doesn't hold as much water as the other one. So I'm going to give this a bit of a nudge to where I want it to go, but it's getting the idea. While that's still wet, I'll add a tiny bit of this darker orange. Just see what it does. Maybe some at the top. Now the paper was already wet there as well, so it will, well, it should bleed beautifully into that. If you can hear anything in the background, my dog is in the room with me. She's deciding to clean up paws of all time. So now, because I've added that water, it's giving a, I think they call it a cauliflower effect. I love that effect, but I don't love these harsh lines. Now, normally on watercolour paper you can blend these out, but because this isn't, it's just cardstock, I don't think I'll be able to manage it, but let's see. No, so I'll have to deal with them. So for this area I want some blues. Shall I go with the turquoise to fit it? No, change my mind instantly because I don't have, there's loads of turquoise on the page. So we'll stick with a royal blue. What about this shade? That's a bit better. Now I got these paints when they were on a pretty good deal. I think they were £40. I got them for a birthday 3 years ago, I want to say, 3 years ago, as a birthday present. So they've lasted a long time. Can you be quiet, Rolo? Add a slightly darker blue. Just dabbing the colour on. Because that paper's already wet, it should just blend out into nothing really. What colour shall I do next? So I've done the yellows, the oranges. We need a lighter pink now. We'll have to mix that. I don't want to have to do that. So we need a lime green, red, and a darker green. So I think what I'll do is bring you down. I will have to turn everything just to make it a bit easier, and then work from this side. And we'll go ahead actually and do the lime green. Why not? So you can see that's not perfect, but I'm trying my best not to go over the illustration. I'm going to wet it actually with the bigger brush very quickly. Get that all moving around. I'll put some clean water at the bottom and let that blend into it. And then I want some darker green. Now for the life of me I can't find the swatch chart for this set of paints, so I'm sort of guessing. Need a little bit more water there. Hello, will you be quiet? I'm quiet all morning, then I press record and you don't shut up. Activate that colour now, and I want to pull it quite far down actually. See if it'll meet with the lime green. Just very lightly dabbing it. Then we need some purples, which we've got a nice purple here. I'm going to stick with the same brush because the end of this one, which is slightly bigger, is a lot more pointier. And I know this is a round, but it's a lot more pointier than this one, so we'll stick with this for now. I'm just having a think where I want this purple going. Maybe I want it coming out this petal. Just try and carefully follow the lines. We'll add a little bit of this one into it as well. Add some water. Not dabbing again, just let it do its own thing. I think I'm missing a little bit maybe here. I don't want it too dark here because Mariola's signature's there, so maybe another yellow, but a really, really pale yellow maybe. I'll water this down so you'll be able to see through it a bit better. Let's clean my brush off. Just a little bit of something there. And then the very last bit I think will be the top part. Now I think the only colour, I know we've got an orange there, But if I add an orange and then add a little bit of red, you know, to match to this red flower here, that's what I'm thinking. So if I go in with this orange maybe, and then add red in a minute. I think this page might be shouting at me to add some sort of glitter or metallic. So I'm going to think about what paints that I've got that might go with this, and add some of them over the top. And I do want to add some white dots. So my red, let's go in with this deep red. Is that red? It is. See, it's that warm, it's more or less drying as soon as I'm messing with the paper. Move up there a bit, add some of that orange back in. It's just disappearing. Clean my brush off. Let's get that mixed in. So I think I want to add a tiny bit more there. And I'll let this dry in a minute. Have a little look through my paints and see if there's anything I can use just to add to this. But I don't want it to take over because there's already a lot going on with the amount of colours that I've chosen. But it's just a little something. Maybe what about here? Maybe a lighter blue. So we'll have to. You know what? I'm going to do a turquoise there. I've got a very light turquoise colour that I think will look quite nice. That is really, really thick. That's better. Clean water again. Go around the edges. Let's meet all this up. And what about a tiny bit of the darker turquoise? Just like that. So I will probably see you in about half an hour just to make sure that it's fully dry, but for you it will just be a minute. No, I lied. I'm going to do this very, very quickly now and then I can let it dry all together. I've decided to do use the Renaissance liquid chrome, and it's this one here, the one that I've used the most of. And you've probably seen this on my channel before because I've used it quite a lot. I don't want to use any of the other colours because, like I said, there's so much going on this page already. But I'm just flicking it on, just very randomly, just to give it something else. And the more paint that's on the brush, the bigger the splatters. Now I'm just getting tiny little splatters here because there's barely anything left on, and that is all it takes. I will be able to show you in better lighting when it's completely dry, what it actually looks like. And it's dry. So let's attempt to take this tape off. I'm not too sure now what to do. I'll leave the border for now, I think. Oh, how am I going to do this now? Because I've double taped it. Let's do the first layer. That's the second. The third's coming off. I think it just adds a little something to the page. Probably should be being a little bit more careful with the masking tape, but hey ho. Let's get that in the bin. Let's move this. And the very last thing I want to do is just to add, see how beautiful that paint is. I've said it before and I'll say it again, if you're just going to listen to me on one recommendation, then buy that paint. I've already got a backup of it, I absolutely love it. So, get my little swatching pad out just to activate this. Now I normally always now have these pens in my description because I can't rate them enough, they're just brilliant. I think I do need to open a new one though. This one is, oh no, alright. It's been going for a couple of months at this point, this one, and I've used it so much. So shall we bring you in a little bit closer? That'll probably be a little bit better. So I just want to add a couple of highlights here and there. Now I did test it and that was already glitter on my hand from messing with the paints before. So it's strange, isn't it, how your taste can change. Like me 12 months ago, even longer than that, I don't want to colour flowers, I don't want to colour leaves, I've had enough, don't want to do it anymore. But now I really enjoy it because I've got into gardening and houseplants. Strange. I might actually, because this fits with the theme of my room now, I might actually switch this up from, I've got a Mariola Boudet page already in a frame. I might put this up instead, or I'll just add to it actually, because I still love that page. One of my favourite ones I've ever done. I'll add some to the blue as well, eh? Why not? So just a couple of lines and dots. These paints are really good as well, the Paul Rubin ones. I do really like them. And considering this wasn't on watercolour paper, I think they've done a pretty good job. See how easy this pen flows? It's just, I've gone through so many Poscas, so many gel pens, you name it, I've probably tried it. And this by far, I don't think I'll ever not keep buying these when they run out. And I think, let's just check the blue. Just a couple. But I think that is it. So I do hope that you enjoyed this little tutorial. It's really simple to do, but I think it's really effective, So you've just got to remember to put the paint down first and then put your clean water to let it bleed out and do its own thing. And then that liquid chromers just give it a little bit extra something, I think. So yeah, Paul Rubin paints, Renaissance liquid chrome, my Sunis watercolour paint pen. And I think that's everything, isn't it? Yeah, I said the Paul Rubens, and then it was a Mariola Boudet PDF off Etsy. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!